Hey everyone, welcome back to Books and Tea with Katie. I'm Katie, and today we're talking about a really intriguing topic that's fascinated people for centuries. We're talking about the thin veil between life and death, and we'll touch on the myths about the afterlife that have shaped stories over the years, especially in murder mysteries. The idea of an afterlife or something beyond this life, this world, comes up in so many ways in the stories that we love. Different cultures have their own beliefs about what happens when we pass away. Some see it as a journey, others see it more like a reckoning. And in mystery books, these myths about life and death can add a whole new layer of suspense and meaning to the story. So today, let's look at how these beliefs have inspired some of the most memorable stories out there today. So are you ready to take a peek behind the veil? Let's start with the idea of death as some sort of threshold, an entryway, let's say, to another world. This idea shows up in loads of cultures. For the ancient Egyptians, which I have been fascinated with since I was a child and read up a lot on it, death wasn't the end for people. It was more like the start of another journey, but it was a journey through the underworld. They believed you had to pass through a series of trials before reaching a type of paradise. And they had an entire set of beliefs to guide the dead along that path. Now, the Greeks had their own version with the river Styx. To reach the underworld, souls had to be ferried across this river by Charon, the boatman. It was obviously a one-way trip because you've passed, and once you crossed, though, you were forever separated from the living. In murder mystery books, this idea of a final journey, that it's not necessarily the end, can add depth to a story if done correctly. And sometimes it's the loose ends of someone's life that can keep a mystery alive and can propel a story. Writers like myself play with this sense of a journey after life by suggesting that death isn't just an ending. It's more like a doorway. It's a doorway that needs to be understood, especially if there's unfinished business. And that unknown, that mystery of what lies beyond, past this realm into the next, it can pull readers in and hopefully keeps them hooked. Now, let's take a look at some afterlife myths from around the world and see how they can add richness to stories. The ancient Egyptians, for instance, believed in a paradise called the Field of Reeds. Others call it Field of Offerings. But to get there, you had to be judged worthy in the Hall of Maat. There were apparently recitations you had to say. So you had to recite the 42 sins, like, I did not anger anyone unjustly, or I did not make anyone weep unjustly, those sorts of things. If the gods like Osiris, Anubis, and some of the others, plus there were 42 judges, if they conferred and ruled positively that you were telling the truth, then your heart would be weighed on a scale against a feather. If your heart wasn't heavier than the feather, if it was balanced, then you could continue your journey towards the Field of Reeds or the Field of Offerings, which was then the final destination where you'd pass other obstacles along the way with gods there to help and guide you. But imagine having your heart weighed against a feather on a scale to determine your fate. I don't know. I think, to me, that's like impossible. But I think that was the point, because you had the pharaohs do this, and they were godly. And so to them, it was difficult, but they were the ones that would go on, and you wanted them to go on because you needed them in the afterlife to help. You wanted them to continue because they were gods. They were gods on earth. But imagine that. Imagine having a scale determine your fate. But this idea of judgment after death It has influenced countless stories, not just murder mysteries, just a ton of stories where characters face some kind of reckoning. In Norse mythology, there's a different take. Warriors who died heroically went to Valhalla. But there's also some that go on to Freya's folklore, and I've had an episode where I talked about that. So you had these heroes, whether they were taken to Valhalla or they're taken to folklore. Those in Valhalla had a grand hall where they prepared for the end of times. If you weren't chosen by Freya for folklore, or you weren't chosen by Odin to go to Valhalla, then you didn't make the cut and you ended up in Helheim, which was a much darker place. This split between those that were honored and those that were dishonored deaths adds richness to the story. It adds depth to these mystery characters. Why did they live the way that they did? What were they trying to achieve or escape from when they were alive? Now we turn to Japanese culture. They have a unique take on the afterlife with yurei, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. These are spirits that linger if they have unfinished business. Basically, they've suffered some type of violent ends. Yu stands for dark and Rei for solar spirit. These are tortured souls. They haven't come to terms with their passing. And instead of coming back as a guardian of the family, they come back and can haunt a person, an object, or even a place like a forest. They're terrifying and they scare young and old alike. This concept is perfect for ghost stories and mysteries, horror stories, where a character's spirit might stick around. And in my stories, they stick around to guide or to warn the living. It lets writers keep a character's presence alive even after they've crossed over, and I've done that. I've written a character in one of my series, and I won't do too many spoilers here. In one of my series, I was writing this character and killed them off, and really just liked this character. And so I was like, oh, I shouldn't have, killed this person off. And instead, what I did was I didn't go back and rewrite the book. I added in a ghostly element. So this character is still there, and I still get to play with this character. And, I bet there are other authors out there that do that too. We are told to kill off our darlings. And so I did. And then I regretted it, and I thought, well, I want to bring this character back, so I did. Just in the ghostly realm, the ghostly form. And we can do that. We can play around with that as writers, and I love that part of writing. So why do so many murder mysteries bring in spirits or bring in the supernatural? I think it's because they add to the story. I mean, that's what it's about. We want people to keep turning the pages and keep interested and love and fall in love with these characters. And they do add a sense of suspense and intrigue that wouldn't otherwise be possible. A spirit can act like a silent witness, someone who knows the truth but can't quite communicate it clearly. Perhaps there was something that they don't remember, like they don't remember all the details of their own death. And so, or they can't convey it well enough. They can't talk like I am talking to you right now. They can only leave hints. That adds curiosity to the story and keeps people flipping pages. It adds a new layer. When you're left wondering what's real and what's just superstition too. Maybe they're adding some things that maybe they're a kind of a storyteller of a narrative of the book that's not quite right. You believe them at first and then you realize, oh, wait a minute, they're not exactly trustworthy. Seers or mediums, though, serve as a bridge between these two worlds. They offer glimpses of the truth, at least you hope. When a character receives a vision or they receive a message from the other side across that veil, it does tap into our curiosity about what lies beyond death. Is there a life beyond death? And in a mystery, it makes you question practically everything. How much is real? How much is just in the character's head? Using the supernatural also can add a bit of justice to the story. If a victim's spirit comes back providing clues, it's almost like they're taking part in solving their own case or these cases. Perhaps it's a deceased detective or something, and they just love doing it in life, so they do it in death. But this adds a lot to the story. This adds deeper layers and deeper meaning to the story. It's not as superficial. And some people really enjoy that. Other people just like a good murder mystery, and that's deep enough. Some people like to dig even deeper and go into those questions and search. I'm one of those. I'm one of those authors. This is especially powerful in stories where someone's death was unjust or unresolved. Their spirit stays connected. It refuses to let go until the truth is out. So why do we love these stories about life and death so much? I think it's because death is the ultimate unknown. We all wonder, maybe not all of us, but there's a lot of us that wonder what happens after we pass. And I think we're drawn to stories that explore that, because that is in and of itself a mystery. Even if we don't get solid answers, there's something comforting about the idea that death isn't the end, that our loved ones that have passed on before us, that they're still there. That's comforting. When a mystery book dives into the supernatural, when it goes and explores the supernatural, it gives us a peek behind that realm, that veil. We get to explore the possibility that life goes beyond death, that there's some kind of truth out there waiting to be uncovered. There's a path, there's a journey. It doesn't stop at death. It's a hopeful thought that our lives and actions don't just disappear when our bodies stop breathing and working. In a lot of ways, these stories remind us that seeking truth matters, even if we don't always find the truth. They keep us asking questions, and they keep us looking deeper and searching, soul searching. And maybe, just maybe, they help us come to terms with our own fears about what lies past death. Now, I couldn't not put in some authors that go into this and that are really good at this. So if you're looking for books about life and death, myths, murder mysteries, that blend these mythological themes and do it really well, number one is Neil Gaiman. I want to read more of his stuff because he's great. So we have American Gods, Norse mythology. He uses mythological themes and he explores complex questions about beliefs and life and death and what happens. So if you're really into that really hardcore mythology, look into Neil Gaiman. Another one that I stumbled across was Madeline Miller. I've not read her works, but she apparently reimagines Greek myths from fresh perspectives through the lens of a female protagonist. So it's more mythological. It's not as much mystery, but if you know, look her up, Madeline Miller. We have Ursula K. Le Guin. I've not read her either. This is just my research on this stuff. I have read some of these things, but not these. Le Guin apparently likes to give voice to a silent figure from Virgil's Aeneid and Lavinium. She blends like historical mythological storytelling. Then we have Mary Renault, known for her historical novels based on Greek myths. She's got The King Must Die. She reinterprets legendary stories through a more realistic lens for a modern day view. Then we have Stephen Fry in his books Mythos and Heroes. He retells Greek myths with adding humor to the story, emphasizing how these ancient stories still resonate. But if you're looking for more of the murder mysteries that are closer to what I like to write, we have an excellent example in Jana de Leon. She is phenomenal. I have read her books. She's known for her Misfortune series. This is a series set in small town Louisiana, and she blends a lot of humor, very humorous characters. I love that. Mystery, the supernatural. She puts into some of her series a lot of romance. And so if you're more into the clean, wholesome romance, she goes a little deeper into that than probably clean, wholesome than you would like. But not all of her series are like that, so just keep that in the back of your mind. But I just absolutely love her. She puts in paranormal twists there and psychic phenomena that just keep me glued to her books. She has a Ghost-in-Law series, which is humorously funny. I mean, it's hilariously funny. So you have a ghost, and they interact with the living. They help solve mysteries, and she can put her protagonist through the ringers. It's very humorous. But she does deal in the afterlife and spirits and murder mysteries. So if you like that sort of thing, I would highly suggest you look up Jana de Leon. Other people like her, Janet Ivanovich. Most people that know about her for her Stephanie Plum series. That is on my TBR list. I have so many that I'm trying to get through right now, but that one people love. Stephanie Plum series, they absolutely love it. It combines humor, romance, and mystery, very similar to Jana de Leon. We have Liliana Hart in her Addison Holmes mysteries. Again, I'd love to read that. That's on my TBR. It offers a blend, apparently, of mystery and humor. Then we have Anne Charles, known for her Deadwood series, bringing together supernatural elements, mystery, and humor, similar again to De Leon, with paranormal twists. Charlene Harris, I have read her Sookie Stackhouse series. They made that one into an HBO live action series, True Blood. I did not watch that, but the Sookie Stackhouse series, they're wonderful. They're very paranormal, supernatural, and they're darker though. So it's a darker, heavier series. They're set in southern settings, quirky characters. And I love her characters. I love her style of writing. Charlene Harris is phenomenal that way. Then we have Gretchen Archer. I have not read her. Davis Wade Crime Capers. So apparently she blends humor and mystery, and she also has female protagonists with a knack for getting into and of course out of trouble, similar to De Leon's characters. So those are just some that you can look up and in your spare time, if you haven't read them, read away. Get them and then let me know what you think. But that's our journey through the ghostly realms for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed exploring these myths and seeing how they bring depth to murder mysteries, whether it's ghosts with unfinished business or seers with cryptic visions. I do think these elements remind us that some questions never really go away. They never really fade. Thanks so much for joining me on Books and Tea with Katie. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a fellow mystery lover, and don't forget to tune in next time for more bookish adventures. Until then, keep your curiosity alive, and remember, sometimes the veil is thinner than we think.